say I've been slacking for a month, but you can shut your mouth, cause I only run it up like, who the fuck are you? I've been living up while I rep the red and blue. I just wanna know what the fuck you wanna do, and you can't come for me, cause I'm just hitting snooze.
Alright, so welcome back to Beaveman and the Doc. I'm the Beaveman.
I'm the Doc.
And that's the Doc. And this week's topic is handpicked or selected by the Doc himself. Doc, please tell us about what your topic is, your long-awaited topic, if you will.
Well, I don't know about long-awaited, but I figured I would introduce you to Dungeons and Dragons.
And why on earth would you think I would be interested in being introduced to Dungeons and Dragons?
Because you're creative, and I think that's a good quality to have for the game.
And so people who are creative would like Dungeons and Dragons, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Dungeons and Dragons, that's been around since what, the 60s? 74?
Yeah.
74s-ish? Okay.
Early 70s.
The early 70s, okay. So why or how long have you been playing Dungeons and Dragons?
My brother-in-law introduced it to me when I was about 8 years old.
Loser! Okay. So your brother-in-law, holy shit. So how old is your sister?
She's 7 years older than me.
7 years older than you, okay. And so she was married at 15?
No, they were dating at 15.
Okay, all right. So
he would come over and visit. They went to school together.
Okay.
And then just over time, in the neighborhood, kids started playing it. So
okay.
In my neighborhood, it wound up being a popular thing.
Did he ever touch you in your no-no square?
No.
Are you sure?
There's none of that. None of that ever. So no.
There was no part of that. That was the fantasy realm. No part of that.
No.
No. Okay. All right. Have you ever dressed up to play Dungeons and Dragons?
No.
You've never.
Although
dressed up.
I did dress up. I did dress up for Halloween as characters from the game.
Okay. Fair enough. So 8 years old, you were introduced to it. So when did you start playing? Did you start playing at 8?
Yeah, roughly.
Roughly, and how long have you played?
Since I was 8.
Oh my God! Seriously, and how old are you? You're 46.
Something.
Okay, so you've been playing Dungeons and Dragons literally almost your entire life.
Nearly 40 years. Yeah.
Nearly 40 years. Loser. Okay.
Listen to you.
Okay. All right.
You're not worthy.
Oh man, I'm not worthy of Dungeons and Dragons. I'm sorry. Okay, so if you don't mind, then you go ahead and take it away. I'll try not to interrupt too much, but go ahead and tell us about Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, you ever read science fiction?
I've read science fiction, yes.
How about any fantasy books? You ever watch Conan the Barbarian?
Of course, I watched Conan the Barbarian.
Did you like it?
Of course, yeah. Who didn't? I mean, I grew up in that era of the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
Okay, well, it's kind of like that. You're telling a story where the events are interactive and everybody involved in telling the story has a role to play.
Okay, so typically now, so you're in your late 40s. So what do you guys like, sitting around some table? You got a bunch of people that still live in the basement of their parents. Maybe their personal hygiene isn't the best. Maybe some of them have never kissed a girl. I'm not sure. This is just what I'm picturing in my head, so how far off is it? How far off?
I have seen and played with some people who might fit that description, especially like back when I was in the Navy. People would show up at the rec center and we'd have drop-in games where...
You guys played Dungeons and Dragons when you were in the military.
Sure did.
Oh my effing God. Okay.
Oh, hey, my son, he's in the Army, and from what I understand, he's playing too.
Okay, so I'm going to make fucking fun of your son, and that's time I Instagram him. Okay. I'm going to make some serious fun of somebody who's... Let me tell you why that's fucked up for somebody who's in the military. I don't know what the Navy's like, thank God. But if you're not getting that kind of cool action that you have to play Dungeons and Dragons when you get to fire giant guns and do cool shit, and you've got to sit in a room with a bunch of smelly people and imagine stuff, then clearly you're not doing the cool shit that you're supposed to be doing. That's a little odd, but okay. But this isn't my goat; it's your goat. So
well, I can't imagine. I can't imagine that he's spending all that much time playing. I mean, like just last week, I got to play Diablo 3 with him for the first time, and at least since he's been to Afghanistan, so he's getting a little free time here and there, and I think most of his free time is on the computer just to keep busy.
Okay, it's fair enough. I'll still make fun of him. Okay, that's fair. He's a leg anyway.
Why do you got to make fun of it?
He's a what? Please enlighten me. Okay, I'll try not to interrupt anymore. Go ahead, tell me about it.
No, it's not the interruption. It's the reason for the interruption. That's what I'm talking about.
We'll get into it. We'll get into it. That's fine. So fantasy, I gotcha.
Yeah, it's storytelling.
Okay, so what? So you all pick a character,
right?
Okay, and then you have quests. Is that right?
Sometimes, yeah, you could call it that, but more than likely, it's just imagining the characters living their lives and interacting with other characters, and the situations happen that are often beyond the control of the characters, and that develops the plot.
Oh, I mean, do you have anything where you start off and say, this is the beginning of our quest and this is the end of our quest, and then we go to a new thing?
Well, the characters often make a plan. You can call it a quest if you want, if it makes you feel better.
No, I'm just wondering. So when does it end?
What it is like, hey, we need money to buy weapons or whatever, and you go and the characters go out looking for monsters to beat up and take their stash,
Right. Okay. So if you don't have a quest and you're just saying, okay, we're getting together and we're talking about, is it like Seinfeld, the show about nothing? They're like, hey, Grodd, what did you do today? Oh, got up, milked the sheep.
The sheep.
Swept out the barn. Had some cabbage boiled for lunch, and then had to pay tithe to the local lord. And by then it was sundown, and I had a large glass of mead, and then I went to bed.
Details like that, you normally wouldn't see that in a book that you would enjoy reading.
Okay.
So they stick to the highlights and assume that the character, they go to the store, they get the things they need, and then by the time they get that, then everything gets started. Sometimes they don't get the opportunity to do that.
Okay, so what do you do in Dungeons and Dragons? What are you, anyway? Are you like some sort of holy dude?
Oh.
You a dwarf?
My character is kind of he's a thief.
He's a thief. Okay. It's a good role model for young children, too.
Yeah.
What do you want to be? I'll be a thief. Okay.
Well, he's also a shape changer. He impersonates other people in the process.
Okay. So he's a shape-changing pickpocket. Thief. Okay. Gotcha.
I like to think of him more as a spy.
Who steals things?
Who steals things?
Spy who steals things. Oh, okay. All right. So what's a day in the life of... Let me ask you this. When all of you folks get together, and you're at somebody's house, and, the mother of the host is asking if you guys want sugar cookies, and he's like, Ma, leave me and my friends alone. Do you guys call each other by your names in the game when you talk to each other?
In a lot of the games, you see, if you go to YouTube, some people, they'll podcast their games.
Oh, you gotta be a special kind of person to watch somebody's podcast of a game, but okay.
Well, anyway, they often do.
So you don't call each other by your names in the game?
Half the time I can't even remember the other characters' names. Our games are more... 75% about the game, 25% goofing around.
Okay, well that's.
Or is it 75% goofing around, 25% about the game? It just depends on the day.
Okay, so these are people that you actually would enjoy spending time with, other than playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's cool. That's better. People who take stuff too seriously, it's a little obnoxious, but
yeah. Okay.
Well,
it's not like we sit and drink beer during the game, although that probably wouldn't be a bad idea, but. There's nobody's mother living there.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Although one of the players is the daughter of, daughter and stepdaughter, I guess you could call them. Two of the players are kids of the friend of mine who hosts the game.
I just imagine it's like, did you ever see those episodes of The Simpsons where Principal Skinner's got Bart over and his mom's like, Seymour, did you want me to tell you when it's 7:30? He's like, no, mother. Seymour, Wheel of Fortune's on.
You're thinking of Big Bang Theory.
No. This is when Principal Skinner had Bart over and they were going to become, quote, friends.
Oh.
And
I don't think I've seen
Principal Skinner's name is Seymour.
Okay.
And he lives with his mother.
Well, they did a similar situation in Big Bang Theory.
Never seen it.
Yeah.
Never seen the show.
One of the characters literally still lived with his mom, and he'd have his girlfriend over, and she'd be like yelling up from downstairs, saying, "Do you want something to eat?"
Yeah.
And
same thing in the Simpsons episode.
Yeah.
Same exact thing. Okay, so tell us about Dungeons and Dragons. I'll try not to interrupt and laugh.
Well, I was going to suggest that you would try and figure out what kind of character you would play if you played.
Well, I don't know because I've done my research on Dungeons and Dragons and its evolution through time, and I've seen that as time has gone by, that they've changed some things where they've tried to make it where it's not so, quote, violent. Because I know that when I was in 8th, 7th, 6th grade, something like that, I had friends that played Dungeons and Dragons. And there was a period of time where they went through, like where they had samurais and they had ninjas and they had all those things. And they had assassins. So if I was going to be anything, it would be an assassin.
Well, believe it or not, my character just made a level to where he could pick that as his archetype for his thief class. So he is now officially an assassin.
I see.
He has assassination abilities.
Okay. Well, let me tell you why I would pick that. I would pick that not because I think that that's a good profession. I would pick that because I would look historically what I would be able to be. And because of my lineage, I cannot be anything like a knight or anything like that because I wouldn't be able to be born into it and or be able to obtain that type of thing. So I would have to get there on my own merits, and so I'd have to be something around the line of an assassin. Here's the funny thing is how people romanticize the, especially like when we were in middle school and high school, everybody wanted to be a ninja, and the ninja movies were big time then.
Yeah.
Ninja is not an honored position. Those were the...
Oh, that's why they covered their faces.
They were not... that was not a great thing to be. That was the dregs, basically, and they just trained them for that sort of thing. It was not like in ninjutsu, quote, ninjutsu is not a respected art. It's just it's a way of invisibility type lameness shit bullshit.
Ninjas were basically medieval terrorists.
Yeah, they're just not even. I mean, it's a
guerrilla warfare. I
mean, still, it's not a respected profession. If I was a samurai, that's a respected position. It's just they're throwaway people, really. So
well, it depends on who you ask.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to really look historically, there's no honor in being a ninja. It's just. Anyway, I mean, you have to get really into actual historical martial arts and look at that stuff, and you're like, it's just all propaganda by the the Hollywood machine.
Have you ever seen a movie called crap? I can't remember the name of the movie, and it's oh well, we'll skip it. It'll come to me later. But okay, if you were going to do that, you'd probably, again, have to start out as a thief, just like my character did. Interesting that you would pick the exact same character type.
Well, first of all, I don't know what the characters are anyway. I would base it on the TV show, the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon show when we were kids.
Oh, God, no.
So, I mean, if I wanted to be super cool, I'd be a ranger, but,
Now, rangers, they got those, too.
Oh, well, see, I'd rather be a ranger, but...
You could be really good with a bow, or you could have pets.
Pets that are good with bows?
No, I don't think that'll happen. Not unless you had, like, some kind of a monkey, whatever. I don't know, that would be weird. But, like last night, my character got got hit by this specter or ghost. I don't know what the hell it was, but and it took away most of his hit points, and they wouldn't come back. So I had my character spent the whole game with just 4 hit points, trying not to get killed, and everybody was making the Galaxy Quest joke, where they'd say, "Well, quick, everybody, let's find a way out of here before somebody kills Crewman Guy," and my character was the Crewman Guy reference.
So how many people play this game with you?
Well, let me see. There's 5 players and the Game Master.
The Game Master. So they don't call him the Dungeon Master anymore?
Dungeon Master, Game Master. It's all synonymous.
Well, Game Master kind of sounds like Game Master, so just wondering.
Dungeon Master could be taken to a awkward angle as well. So,
all right. So, okay. Continue on.
It just depends on where you decide to go with it, to your dark place.
As long as he doesn't try to go to my dark place. I don't care.
Well, there's none of that going on either. In or out of the game.
So when you play, do you have little figurines that you use also?
We have played with miniatures on a map.
Okay.
And one of the things that I've been talking about trying to do is set up a projector that projects onto the wall. And then we have each of us would have a laptop in that case where we would be able to interact with the map based on what's going on using a program called Fantasy Grounds.
So let me ask you this. Do any of these people actually exercise? I mean, what's the...
Well, I've been trying.
What's the point? I'm just wondering, what is the point of sitting in a room and thinking about these things as opposed to actually going out and doing things?
Well, who wants to get killed?
Well, I'm not saying you got to go out. Well, obviously you're not going to go out and slay a dragon, but, I mean, all of these things, when I look at video games and, the reality-based, these fantasy games... And I look at it and I see a bunch of people that don't get out and go do things. That's what I see.
To each their own.
Yeah, true. But that's just what I'm saying. I mean, if you go to, say, the local comic book store in Kalamazoo, and you walk in there on a, when they're having one of their whatever card games, their Magic the Gathering or whatever they're playing, it smells like... people haven't showered for a really long time. It smells like farts and desperation. That's what it smells like.
When I walk into those stores, the first thing I notice is the smell of the books. Not the people, believe it or not.
Well, you're lucky, because that's not what I smell when I walk in. And I do walk in because I go in there to get my comics, but, I don't hang out after that. So, anyway, so what else then?
Speaking of comics, I used to get Dragon Magazine, which had a comic called Thrud the Barbarian. It was a pretty entertaining comic series. I don't think they do it anymore.
So what's your name?
My character's name is Nikos.
What is it?
Nikos.
Nikos, like the restaurant?
It's Greek.
So why'd you pick that?
I heard it as a character name on Quantum Leap, and I thought it was an interesting name. So I wanted to be different and original. And
so how can you avoid detection if, for example, if you are Nikos the Thief, you introduce yourself, "Hi, I'm Nikos the Thief," and people are like, "Oh,
I make up different names.
I'll just hide my shit."
I make up different names. I use disguises. Use different faces, different people.
Ah, okay. But you still introduce yourself as Nikos the Thief?
No.
No? Oh, well.
No, that would be just, dumb.
Well, it would be like, kind of, "Hi, I'm Darius the Ranger." Oh, okay.
I make up names, like sometimes I'm at a loss to make up a name, so I just say, "Oh yeah, my name is Fred or Frank or Jim," or,
So even if you change your names...
Monty Python Search for the Holy Grail, some call me Tim.
Yeah. And you're like, "So I'm, Fred." But you still can't... You're in the habit now because of how you introduce yourself in the game. They're like, "The Thief."
Or if there's somebody that I want to impersonate, I'll introduce myself as them. while wearing the disguise to get them in trouble.
Okay, fascinating. So, what kind of things do you guys do then in the game?
Well, the game that we're playing in now is part of a series called The Curse of Strahd, and it's they refer to it as a world of horror because it's the kind of thing where there are vampires and werewolves, the traditional gothic monsters that you would encounter, and some of the bad guys are, they're pretty dark. So right now it's not something that our characters were choosing. Like, they saw two kids outside of a house crying because they said a monster has their brother held captive inside the house. So we went into the house, and then all the walls and doors and everything were bricked up. We couldn't get back out. So we realized that the two kids that we saw were actually ghosts, and we were trying to find their remains and return them to be buried in hallowed ground and set them free, and then find a way out without getting killed ourselves.
Okay, so all things are based in reality.
My character almost got killed by a ghostly nanny, for God's sake.
All right.
It was in the first few encounters anyway.
So let me ask you this question. When you're, of this is your pastime, this is those things you do. Before the advent of the internet, how exactly did you come across people who wanted to do this sort of thing? In casual conversation, did you just go, "Hi, my name is Doc, and I'm a thief, and I'm a 12th level, whatever"?
I am none of those things.
Okay.
I am a player. It's like playing any other game.
Okay, so let's say this. Let's say, okay.
Hey, you want to play Monopoly? Think of it that way. It's simple.
Let's do this. Let's say you're teenage Doc.
Right.
Let's go back in time. You're teenage Doc. You meet this girl. You guys go out a couple times, and she says, "Hey Doc, yeah, thanks for hanging out with me and taking me to that movie. Say, just want to know more about you. What do you do for fun? Other than the stuff that I've seen you do."
Well, teenage Doc, go to the beach, chasing girls, getting naked. Typical teenage stuff. Well, not for everybody, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
But I was all about pursuing fun.
Yeah, but you were still playing Dungeons and Dragons then, right?
Yeah, off and on.
Okay. Well, that's what I'm saying. What was it like if you'd said, "Well, I enjoy. Sometimes I like to get together with a bunch of people in a small room, and I like to pretend that I'm Nikos the thief, and I dabble a little bit in Dungeons and Dragons."
I'm not pretending that I don't mind
telling you that
I am telling a story about somebody named Nikos. That's basically what I'm doing.
Oh, but you're still playing Dungeons and Dragons. So what if you had to? What if a girl straight up asked if you were like with this girl, and you like this girl, and you guys have been together for a while, and occasionally you go off and you do something, and she's like, "What is it that you go off and do with your friends?" And what would you say then?
Playing games. D&D.
What game? What game are you playing?
Dungeons and Dragons.
You're playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
So, let me get this straight. You guys all sit around a table and play with dice and talk about shit that's not really happening?
Yep.
Goodbye, Doc.
And believe it or not,
it was nice knowing you.
that
It was nice
never happened. It never happened. I've never had anybody say, "You play D&D? Ooh, goodbye." Never
I don't
happened.
mind telling you, pretty lady. I've scored some pretty large emeralds and stuff. Okay, well. Hey, so what if she says, "Hey, Doc, I know you got this game coming up on, Saturday, and I noticed you haven't bathed for a few days to get ready for it. I've got this other thing going on. I thought maybe you'd like to go. What do you say?"
I've canceled on games to go on a date.
All right. Okay. All right.
I mean, it's a game. It's not a job.
Okay. Yeah. I was wondering how seriously you take it. Just wondering how seriously.
Of course, at the same time, there have been a couple of nights that I went to go play, and my wife was pissed at me for it. So,
Okay. So I thought your wife played with you.
I tried to get her to play. She didn't want to.
So tell me about that conversation. That's more real. That's more reality based. So you've been playing this game for a while, and you said, "Hey, how would you like to go hang out with me and my friends and play a little bit of Dungeons and Dragons?" I'll tell you what. I'll let you be the thief of hearts. What do you think about that? Huh?
Your impersonation of me needs some work. I can tell you that. Honestly, I don't remember how the conversation worked. I think originally, when her and I were talking about that, we were still playing second edition.
Second edition of what?
Dungeons and Dragons.
How many editions are there?
God, there's 5 now.
Okie dokie.
It's up to 5th edition, and I discovered a game called Pathfinder, which is like a version 3.75, which in my opinion is far better than 5, but 5th edition is a lot simpler, so it's gaining steam. People are liking it. But at the time, I think it ended up that she wanted to be a part of.
She wanted to have a life.
She wanted to be a part of what I was doing.
Okay,
I don't think
enough.
she was interested in the game. She just wanted to be there because she wanted to be with me.
Okay, well that's nice.
And I
That's
like
good.
that.
Yeah, but you have to have your separate things. For sure.
Yeah, and that's kind of what it's become.
All right.
She's like, "Oh, your game night." Like when I went out to play yesterday, she took the kids out for pizza. So
Now, how long do these games last when you have them? How long are you guys hanging out?
they vary. Some of them, 2-3 hours, and some of them 5-6 hours. It just
Holy
depends.
shit.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. All right. So,
It just depends if everybody's having fun. We play.
Uh-huh.
Usually it gets kind of late though, so
Okay. And is this all guys, girls, or well, how many people are there?
well, there's 3 guys, 2 girls in the group.
All right, so continue.
I forgot where I was.
Let me ask you this to get you back on track. Do you now, on your person, have a multi-sided die?
I do not.
How often do you carry a multi-sided die?
Just to games.
Just a game. So
Well, I take that back. I used to leave my dice bag in my car.
okay. As long as you don't have it on your person at all times, that'd be a little weird.
Yeah, it would. But my laptop has a program with all the dice built into it. So
it
That Fantasy Grounds program?
So it spins for you. It throws the dice for you.
random number generator, basically.
Okay.
So you don't have to have dice if you've got, laptops and the right kind of program.
So talk to me about the controversy over Dungeons and Dragons then.
Well, I remember back in the 80s there was some kids that, they were doing drugs and playing the game at the same time. And yeah, they started impersonating or they started imitating or trying to real life role play it.
Much like the LARP kids do now, except not rolling.
Yeah, live
dice
action
and
role
shit.
play. They were actually going out and causing trouble.
Now that was the most famous one was at MSU, right?
I don't remember, but I remember seeing a movie about it, and I remember seeing a couple of things on the news.
Yeah, there used to be a movie that they played like every freaking year on TV, starring Tom Hanks.
Was it?
That was Tom Hanks back in the day, and that movie was called Mazes and Monsters, if memory serves me correct. Let me see if I can find it real quick here. Yeah, so, Mazes and Monsters. Researching good old, looking at Wikipedia here. Mazes and Monsters. Mazes and Monsters was a novel by Rona Jaffe. It's a cautionary tale regarding the new hobby of fantasy role-playing games and the made-for-television movie by the same name starring none other than Tom Hanks.
That's kind of cool.
And that was supposed to. It was this. Her novel was based on what they say is inaccurate newspaper stories about the disappearance of James Dallas Egbert III from Michigan State University in 1979.
That was the one. They found him. They did find him. And I think he was alive and well. Well enough, anyway.
Well enough. It was slightly worse than that, but well enough. I think the most interesting thing about that movie was, one, it's kind of funny because that's Tom Hanks' first actual major role, which is funny. And two, it had good old Christopher Makepeace in it. Do you remember him?
No.
He was in My Bodyguard, and he played the kid who ran in Meatballs. Did you ever see the movie Meatballs? It's like the classic camp movie. They also used to play every year, and you're like looking back, they're like, man, they really edited that movie to put it on TV, just like Caddyshack. But yeah, he's the kid that was in Meatballs, and he was the one that was running at the end. But he was kind of a big actor in the 70s and early 80s, or late 70s, early 80s, and now he's just some dude hanging out doing like television producing and stuff like that in Canada because he's from Canada.
On Google, it shows up. He shows up as when I did a search for his name. It shows washed up celebrities Chris Makepeace.
He's not a washed up celebrity. He left the movie scene himself, and he's
according
like,
to this, it says washed up.
Him. He's not washed up. He just didn't do any more shit. He's from Canada. I'm sure he's super famous in Canada. Whatever. Anyway, he's a good actor. Good actor. Yeah. Mazes and Monsters used to play it every dang year on the television. So. Yeah, when you look at Dungeons and Dragons, it has this really, I will say, it has a bad reputation, which is a felonious reputation. And I think the reason why is because, first of all, adults, parents, whatever, don't like the artwork. And I would say super conservative people don't like the artwork either.
Yeah, some of the artwork is one of the coolest things about it.
Oh yeah, I mean it's phenomenal artwork. You know, they don't like it. Oh, there's too many demons and there's too many half-clad women and that sort of thing. So I think that's part of the reason why they have such an issue with it, but they don't come out and say that's their issue. They just want to pick apart other things because they want to make it that, if you play Dungeons and Dragons, clearly you worship Satan. Whatever. Okay, yeah, sure. All these kids worship Satan, and it makes all these kids violent. Well, that's bullshit.
That's about as much bullshit as saying Well, I was gonna make a stereotypical comment, but I don't want to sound racist, so I'm gonna skip it. Stereotypical comments like that just they're wrong.
Right. And I would agree. I think that the real issue that people have with it is not that it makes people violent or that it's a bunch of people playing it are Satan worshippers. I think that there's just a bunch of people with sticks up their ass that have a problem with the artwork.
Well, they have no creativity.
Yeah. So, they want to point it out and say, it makes people hypersexual or it makes this or whatever.
They fear people who have an open mind to storytelling. Like I said, it's just storytelling. That's what it boils down to.
But if you follow the natural evolution of Dungeons and Dragons, at least as it's written in Wikipedia, which of course anybody can add to Wikipedia if they want to, it shows that basically they kowtowed to everybody and kind of backed off on some stuff a little bit also because they're afraid obviously that it would affect their sales, which in my opinion you should never sell out and kowtow to everybody else. But if they did, they did. Whatever.
Well. If you're talking about violence, probably the most violent role-playing game that I've ever played was another one called Rollmaster. Had very, very detailed damage charts. And in fact, some people don't like it because they're too detailed. It complicates the game and makes it more about dice rolling and chart rating than the actual role-play and storytelling. And I mean, there are details like, you sever your opponent's arm and he bleeds out over the next 30 seconds or whatever. You know what I mean? Things like that. And there's a fumble in that game where you roll badly, and if you roll badly enough, it'll say you trip over an imaginary unseen dead turtle. And you wind up face down on the ground, which I just think that's funny. You thought you saw you thought there was a dead turtle there that you didn't see. It's just, I mean, how messed up do you got to be to
trip over a dead turtle?
To trip over an imaginary, unseen dead turtle. You trip over something, you thought it was a dead turtle, but you don't know because you didn't see it.
So clearly some of the other controversy, too, about Dungeons & Dragons is the ongoing battle they had with the Tolkien people. So what about that? Where they're trying to say that they didn't base their characters on J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings series. Tolkien's people said that they did, and Dungeons & Dragons saying that they didn't. But clearly, a lot of their characters have almost exactly the same names.
I don't see what they have in common.
Well, before you say that...
Rolemaster, on the other hand, Rolemaster was a game that was heavily based in Middle-earth, and nobody complained about that.
Well, I mean, but when you're talking about, money, if Tolkien's people are saying, hey, you stole our characters without permission, then yeah, you're going to owe somebody money. What characters
in Dungeons & Dragons were stolen?
Hey, I'm just telling you what the Wikipedia says, and later on, the people who developed Dungeons & Dragons did admit that they were heavily influenced by Tolkien. Even though they denied it for years and years and years and years, they eventually admitted it.
Maybe it's not specific characters, but a race, the halfling. They are a lot like the Hobbit.
Yeah, here it says... The world of D&D was influenced by world mythology, history, pulp fiction, and contemporary fantasy novels. The importance of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit as an influence on D&D is controversial. The presence in the game of halflings, elves, half-elves, dwarves, orcs, rangers, and the like draw comparisons to these works.
But, dwarves and elves, and those go a lot further back.
True, but not rangers. Tolkien. But not rangers and halflings. And the resemblance was even closer before the threat of copyright action from Tolkien Enterprises prompted the name changes of Hobbit. So apparently they used to have hobbits in D&D, and they had to change it to halfling. They had Ents, and they had to change it to Treant, and Balrogs to Balor. And it says, for many years, Gygax, whoever that is.
Gary Gygax was the creator. He's
played down the influence of Tolkien on the development of the game. However, in an interview in 2000, he acknowledged that Tolkien's work had a strong impact. So, I guess he got tired of denying it when it's pretty obvious. But it's like anything else.
Then he died, his wife took over and screwed the game up when she made 4th edition. God, what a horrible nightmare.
Talks about that I think it actually talks about that in Wikipedia. I don't, it's kind of when you go back to things, though, is I tell people, I'm like, stories, nothing is creative. The same stories have been told over and over again. So can you really say, unless you steal a name, he's not stealing a story because all it is a story. What's the most common story we have? Boy meets girl, boy falls in love with girl, boy loses girl. If you watch a movie, it always follows the same themes. It's the same stuff, Here we have this fantasy edition.
There's other situations, like a town being threatened by a band of goblins or whatever that have been marauding the countryside and terrorizing farmers, and
and the gunslingers come in.
The good guys come in and save the day.
In this case, a couple of rangers, a dwarf, and a paladin or whatever come in and save the day. Yeah, it's the same plot. What is it? That's the plot of Three Amigos right there. That's the exact same thing. Yeah, so the same stories get told over and over. They just get a different twist, right?
Right.
That's how I look at it. But, people get bent around the axle about stuff, and so... And to those people, I say, fuck you. Anyway.
That's where the Dungeons & Dragons gets a good boost in terms of storytelling, because what winds up happening is you take the same old story that you say is being told over and over again, and you add the player's perspective to make unique characters who interact and very often will come up with unique solutions to those problems.
Sure.
But these kinds of problems have been happening over and over in as they say, committing the same old crimes in all new ways, So the good guys can do the same thing, protecting against the same old crimes in all new ways.
That's what I mean. That it's the same. You've got the same themes with twists. And what is that based off of? It's still based on the human condition. Even though you've got all these monsters and everything, you can make it like, okay, well, I'm saying that this town is getting invaded by monsters or whatever, but I'm basing that off of a town that was invaded by a bunch of thieving cowboys or whatever. You're just making it more interesting.
Yeah.
Well, much like everything in life, if you talk with somebody who's got severe mental illness and they tell you that the government is spying on them 24/7, and there's always a car parked outside spying on me, and really that's not the case. It's that's that person's neighbor that parks that car out there.
I could just as easily take a game of Dungeons and Dragons with a few modifications and make a real life adaptation of the game to where you could play it in modern day. You could actually play yourself.
Well, if I remember correctly from back in middle school, there were games like that were not live action, that were role play, that were not monster and everything based. It was like spy based, or like cops and robbers based and things like that. I can remember stuff like that.
There are other games like that. One was called Vampires, Spy versus Spy, Paranoia. That's where the saying comes from, where you say, just because I'm paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get me.
Yeah, so, that's true.
But that was one of those games where the players often turn down each other and the last one standing wins, kind of thing. But it just depends on the game you want to play. A lot of people don't enjoy that. There's even another game based on a cartoon, Dragon Ball Z. Mm-hmm. They made a role playing game out of that. Star Wars. You want to play a Jedi? You could in that game. Of course, too many people want to play the Jedi, and it gets kind of old because of it.
Yeah, I would be a Sith for sure. If you think about it, being a Jedi is extremely boring, and I'm not sure why anybody would want to be a Jedi, because it's way cooler to be a Sith. Anyway, okay, so I'm just trying to imagine this whole thing. I'm on your side. If you want to sit in a room with a bunch of people and play these little games, hey, knock yourself out. It's still funny.
When it boils down to it, it is. It's just a matter of hanging out with your friends. Like I said, I've been in games. I've joined in on games that nobody knew each other, and it was all business. It wasn't much fun. It was all about the game, and that was it. But when we play, everybody brings something to snack on, and we joke around, we tell stories, and if something comes up that we think is funny, we interrupt to tell the joke or whatever, like making the comparison between my character and Crewman Guy and Galaxy Quest, because every time we'd have an encounter, it looked like I was going to be the one who would get killed.
So when I look at stuff like this, though, I think about all the different kind of hobbies that people have, and I try to figure out what makes this person want to do this as opposed to do something else. For example, you have people that want to play this fantasy game, and then you have people that want to do, like, not necessarily take the next step, because it's not the next step, it's something completely different. When you have people who want to do, like, LARP, mm-hmm. maybe those people don't want to sit in a room and, do this, so they're doing the next, kind of like the next iteration. They're all dressing up in their clothes, and they're having these little adventures. And then you look at something that's not the next step, it's something completely different, but along the same lines, is when you have the people who are doing things like, SCA and HEMA, where they're actually, SCA where they're wearing armor and they're fighting each other. They're not doing quests, they're actually fighting, and then you've got HEMA.
They have legitimate competitions, too.
Yeah, and they're not necessarily, there's a difference between SCA and HEMA, because SCA are basically, they're just putting on armor and hitting each other, where not 9 times out of 10, but the SCA stuff that I've seen, they really aren't trained. They're just bashing the crap out of each other. And then you've got historical European martial arts, where those people are actually training in a style, learning that style, and not necessarily to fight, but to actually learn that style. So when you take somebody, or you go to the Ren fairs and you see them where, you know, they've got the, quote, acting troupe and they're fighting, and you can watch them fight, and if you're trained in historical European martial arts, like I train in historical European martial arts, so to me, sitting in a room doing this other stuff is not interesting, but to me, pulling apart in, you know, a martial art from, you know, the 15th century, that's interesting to me. But if you take people from the Ren fairs, and we get them now and again who are like, oh, I want to learn this martial art, they never last more than a class, because they have this bastardized version of fighting that they've, quote, learned, and it doesn't do them any good, because if you actually learn a style, actually learn a martial art, they can sit there and swing their swords and whatever as much as they want, but I take one move and I could stab them in the face if I wanted to, because they actually didn't learn anything. They have a romanticized version of what it means to actually fight. So you've got all these different sects of things that are kind of related to each other, and there's, at times I would say there's some crossover, but when you get as little pieces going, you're like, well, what makes this person motivated to do this one thing and not that other thing?
I like to think of it this way. Stephen King, do you think he ever played Dungeons and Dragons?
I have no idea.
I bet
it's
he
a
did.
very warped individual. Good guy, you know, very warped in the head, obviously.
But, I mean, authors, storytellers, people who want to exercise their imagination and share it with others.
He may have played Dungeons and Dragons, but the thing is that he's a writer and probably writes every day. You know what I mean? So writers write about whatever, you know. Obviously, he's a guy who had...
King,
obviously,
Dean
he's a guy who
Koontz,
had nightmares.
Jim Butcher.
You know. Stephen King probably had a lot of nightmares, and that's what his impetus was, to write a lot about stuff, you know.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Yeah, so unfortunately it didn't help him with the endings of his books, because most of those were pretty shitty. I always hated reading a 1,000+ page book that had built and built and built, and then all of a sudden the ending was crap. So I used to get really mad about Stephen King books. So basically what I'm thinking is that it goes back down to the whole personality thing, you know, of what people like to do. For example, you know, if I think it's funny for people to play Dungeons and Dragons and I kid with you and call you a loser and a nerd, whatever, I would say, you know, people are going to say the same thing about people who, like, because my hobby's martial arts, people say the same thing about that. The difference is that I can easily kick them across the face and you can't.
I don't see any problem with either one of them.
I don't either. I'm just saying, I think it's...
as long as what you're doing is something you enjoy and it's legal, why not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that the other thing is, too, is, you know, when you look at the evolution, at least of the time frame that we're in, I mean, what movies are popular now, you know, are the movies that we dreamed about having when we were kids. You know, and now we've got all these superhero movies. So for us, at the ages of, you know, really when you're looking at most of us in our 40s, we're like in heaven now, because these are all the things that we wanted as movies when we were kids. And the closest thing we had was, you know, the Star Wars movies. And we had to wait forever for those to come out.
Yeah, Disney ruined that.
Yeah, well, yeah. Anyway, but not now. I think they're pretty good now.
Oh, God, they're horrible.
Not as bad as that second generation of bullshit they put out. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, for us now, it's like a nerd's paradise. So when we were kids, you know, because, you know, I wasn't a jock, you know, I really didn't fit in anywhere. I wasn't a jock. I wasn't, I was kind of a band geek, but I really wasn't good at that either. I wasn't a genius by any means, but I wasn't stupid either. So, you know, I was a nerd if I really wanted to be. I really wanted to be, you know, but that, you know, being called a nerd back then was like insulting, but now, you know, and for as long as I can remember, I've identified as a nerd, so I don't consider
the guys
that,
with the money.
I don't consider that insulting. So, you know, when people say that, I'm like, you know, you wish you were a nerd, you know.
And think about this, playing games like Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, or the version that I like to play is called Pathfinder, but it's basically just Dungeons and Dragons under a different name with a few similar or a few different rules, but it's a relatively cheap hobby.
Sure,
you can get an entire evening of fun out of it. And what did you spend? What do you have to spend? Really, nothing.
Yeah.
You could play it for almost free.
Yeah, you can't beat that. You can't say that about too many hobbies. I would say probably my most favorite hobby is pretty expensive, and that's why I don't do it very often.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. How much have you spent on martial arts lessons over the years?
Thankfully at my dojo not that much. We only pay $60 a month for an entire family. So, and you can take whatever class you want. And I've been doing it for 7 years, so not that much. Training in European martial arts, that's more expensive because I have to buy an actual training sword, and my training sword, if you want a good one, and mine's like middle of the road good. It's pretty good. It cost me $500.
Wow.
But we bash swords against each other. You don't want a sword that's going to break.
Right.
You don't want a sword. Training swords have to have a special edge to them so that they don't get nicks in them and stuff like that.
They don't do damage when they hit.
Right. It's not like having a true combat ready sword that has that edge on it. You clash that against another sword, you got a good chance of it getting nicked unless you paid like a couple, like $1,000, $1,500, $1,200, $2,000 for a good or actual sword that's combat
one
ready.
It's been tempered and folded properly.
Yeah. And most of them are not like that, So, we don't use those types of swords, but we use a training sword.
I got a katana at home up on the mantle. It's purely ceremonial. If you hit it against something, it'd probably break.
Yeah, it's not like...
anything.
But training swords are expensive, and then, of course, you want to protect your body. I've got heavy-duty gloves, and I don't want my hands broken. So, good set of heavy-duty gloves can be anywhere from $200-$300 if you get a good set. You can get them less expensive like that for $50, but...
A friend of mine, he goes to those Renaissance fairs quite a bit, and he literally makes his own armor.
I go to the Renaissance fairs, but I heckle when I go.
Why am I not surprised?
I heckle when I go because when you watch the battles when you watch the fights at Renaissance fairs that aren't like the SCA fights where they're actually hitting each other,
they're more choreographed.
When they're not even choreographed. They say they do it. You can tell they're not choreographed because they're just throwing bullshit. But when people fight with their swords, they aim for each other's sword, just like they do in the movies. Where that's not sword fighting. Sword fighting is not... The goal is not to hit somebody else's sword. The goal is to hit the person.
Right.
So when you look at people who actually train in, sword martial arts, they're not trying to hit each other's sword. And you don't have like a bunch of moves. You're trying to actually end a sword fight within just a couple moves. You're not trying to have some prolonged clashing of swords, some Errol Flynn type bullshit. That's not what you're trying to do.
I saw those. They have competitions where they use those lightsabers that are supposed to be able to withstand an actual duel, and they look cool as hell. But you can tell.
You won't want to hit that against anything.
Every time he waves it around behind him or does something fancy, you're dead, dead again. It'd be like you were saying earlier. It's like, you wave it around, you look good, you're dead. It'd be that quick. But
I would say that there's a good... I think that probably the good thing about these fantasy role-playing games is that it doesn't ruin you for other fantasy-type stuff. So for me... so you could watch... you could play Dungeons & Dragons and you could watch a sci-fi, fantasy, whatever movie and not be ruined by watching it. Because you could just enjoy it.
Right.
I, on the other hand, can enjoy some of that stuff, but if there's things like sword fights in them or fights with pole axes or with spears, I watch them and I'm like, that's such bullshit. You could have already done this and killed that person.
Have you ever seen a show called Princess Bride?
Oh, that's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Well, what'd you think of the sword fights in that?
Oh, it was an awesome sword fight. It was a great sword fight. But it's
they
great
used formal techniques and things like that, though.
Yeah.
It sure is choreographed, but the idea is, again, storytelling. Mm-hmm. So that's the whole point, man. Well,
I think I can rationalize that sword fight because of this.
If you kill the main character in the first scene, how much of a movie are you going to have?
Well, I can rationalize it because you've got Inigo Montoya, who's trying to kill what's his name?
Wesley.
Wesley. He's trying to kill Wesley. So he's doing his thrusts and his cuts in an attempt to kill Wesley. However, Wesley is not trying to kill him.
No.
So he's parrying it. So that's
He's
why
good enough to where he doesn't have to.
That's why this is a prolonged sword fight. So when I watch that sword fight, I don't get pissed and say, "Oh, you could have ended that sword." Wesley could have ended the sword fight a long time ago, but he had no reason to kill Inigo Montoya. So that's why the sword fight is actually prolonged. He just toyed with him until he could disarm him, and then he knocked him out.
Oh yeah, even during the fight, I think I remember him saying something. Well, I wanted to make you feel better.
Yeah, so that's why I can watch that one and be like, oh, that makes sense. But if you're watching one where they're actually trying to kill each other, you're like, why are they hitting swords? They shouldn't be hitting swords. And if you hit swords, you can just slide your sword down the sword and stab the person, whatever. So I get really kind of taking martial arts over the years has ruined me for watching a lot of movies. So I have to just watch and be like, okay, yeah, that's fine. It's just the movies. And we talk about that. The funniest one is one of the funniest ones is when they adapted. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Was that C.S. Lewis? Who wrote those?
I don't remember, but I read it in junior high.
Yeah,
Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah, so they have like
Chronicles of Narnia.
Chronicles of Narnia. So in one of them, they have a big fight scene and they're like swinging from the side and stuff. I'm like, God, they could have just already stabbed them. So yeah, that's the bad thing about taking martial arts. It kind of ruins you when you watch movies. You just have to shut your mind off and say, okay, it's just a movie. Yeah. So, but you don't have that problem because you don't know any different.
I know enough, but I know that it's just Hollywood, and I mean, you ever watch Star Trek? All the bullshit props that they had over the years on that show.
Oh yeah, I mean Star Trek was great because every planet they went to, they could breathe the atmosphere.
Yeah, well, they were real careful about which planets they went to, but they like William Shatner was interviewed one time, and they were talking about how originally the panels on the show was literally Christmas lights, and that's all the panel was. And so they had to go and invent movements and gestures like they were actually doing something to this computer, and it was just a bunch of lights.
Well, that's funny too because if you watch, we talked about that before, not on the podcast, but we were talking about Black Mirror, that show Black Mirror.
Yeah.
And they have the one that's like Star Trek, and the girl says to her, and he's like, "Oh, take us to wherever, or look, or track whatever." And she's looking at that panel of buttons, and the girl leans over to her, and she's like, "It doesn't matter. Push whatever button you want. It's
gonna happen.
It's gonna happen." Yeah. So that was actually a really good show. By the way, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, or the Chronicles of Narnia, was written by C.S. Lewis. Hey, go me! I actually remembered that pretty. Do you know that's really about the Bible?
Yeah. The lion is supposed to be God.
That's Jesus.
Or Jesus.
Yeah. Yep. Pretty cool, really. I love those books. Those books are actually really good. The sad thing is they all die in the end.
Everybody dies in the end.
Yeah, but they die in the book in the end.
Yeah.
They die in a train, except for the one sister. She's not on the train.
She gets to go home.
Yeah, so the one that didn't believe in Narnia anymore.
Right.
So she gets to live, but the rest of them die. They get to go to heaven, but I'm sure she got to go to heaven eventually too. What a bunch of weird shit.
Could you imagine what it must have been like to be one of Jesus' apostles?
You're assuming Jesus was real.
No, he was real.
Okay, well, I'll assume that also. To be one of Jesus' apostles, yeah, they're all a bunch of pieces of shit.
No, it's the...
You're saying that they all denied him.
You're taking this totally the wrong direction.
Okay, so Jesus is dead. They all go on the lam, and every time one of those fuckers gets caught, oh, that wasn't me. Oh, I don't believe that shit. That's what happened to all of them. They're all pieces of shit. They all denied knowing him. That's not true. That's what they all did.
That's not the point.
Even years later, they denied him.
Not the point that I was trying to make. I didn't bring it up to go down that road.
Imagine that I'm his apostle. Okay, yeah, let's see.
My thinking was that
I don't wear underwear, most likely.
They got to be there. They got to meet Jesus. They got to see all the cool things that he did. Now, imagine somebody like that. How easy faith would be compared to like now, they have nothing to where people debate on whether or not Jesus actually existed.
Okay.
And the amount of faith it takes to still believe that Jesus is God.
Okay, let me flip that around on you. Those fuckers were there and got to see everything that Jesus did and still feared death. That makes them pieces of shit. Tell me it doesn't. So if you've got people now that have so much faith in Jesus and don't fear dying because they get to be in heaven, why were those fuckers denying Jesus back then? Who cares if you got your head chopped off for saying, yeah, I was one of the apostles or whatever? Who gives a shit? You had a tenth of a second of pain and you're in heaven. Who gives a crap? So why were they such pieces of garbage? They got to see it all firsthand. And they still denied him. Answer that one, huh? Yeah, waiting. Patiently. Waiting.
I often wondered, you know how everybody makes Judas out to be the bad guy? I often wondered if it's totally backwards. He was the good one. He gave up Jesus because Jesus told him to. Mm-hmm. And the story says that he hung himself out of guilt, but what if the other apostles killed him out of anger for turning in Jesus? I still wonder that to the day.
Well, yeah, because he did what he was supposed to do.
Yeah.
He was supposed to, it's not like he wanted to.
Jesus said one of you was going to betray me.
And he knew who it was.
Right.
So, yeah, he did what he was supposed to. He played his role. So, he's
why is he the bad guy?
He's probably in heaven, and the other pieces of shit probably aren't. If you believe in that sort of thing. I like the theory, though, what was it, Dracula 2000? Where Dracula is Judas.
Yes.
Yes, that was kind of a cool spin. I'm like, that's a cool spin.
I've seen
another. And that's why he's as averse to silver.
I've seen another show that suggested that Dracula was Cain. That being a vampire was his curse for killing Abel. But that's totally beside the point. But see, these are the kinds of ideas and stories that you can explore playing games like Dungeons and Dragons. And
so who gets to be Jesus?
Huh?
So you get to play Jesus? Like, all right, guys, this week on Dungeons and Dragons, I know you've been playing a thief, Nikos, but we're going to go ahead and have you be. We don't want any copyright infringement here, so you're going to be Jeebus. You'll be Jeebus.
I gotta let my hair down. Is that what you're saying?
You'll be Jeebus. Ronaldo. May I call you Ronaldo? You're going to play. No more copyright infringement. You're going to play Jew-ass, and you're going to betray Jeebus.
No. That might be offensive. You better change it.
Why? They were Jews. Jew-ass. It's fine. We're all Jews. If you're Christian, we're all Jews. JC was a Jew. Hello.
Okay. We should get back on the Dungeons and Dragons because this is
all the same thing.
This is going in a way that.
So anyway, that's what I'm saying. So in Dungeons and Dragons, you said you get to play your fantasy. So that's what I want you to do next time you play Dungeons and Dragons. Set it up where you're Jeebus, and you've got your apostles, your apostolage, your apostles.
The idea being that if you wanted to explore a story that has an alternate explanation as to how or why things happened or could have happened, well, that's how you explore it. And the idea is that you try and make the reactions as realistic as possible through role play.
So let me ask you this then. So you're dungeon master, game master, whatever he is. Does he have pre-thought out responses on what he's going to do based on what he thinks one out of your 3A reactions are going to be?
I think, there is a certain amount of preparation that has to go into something like that. It's not something that you can just, walk in and improv everything.
So is there like some sort of like hand print or whatever he has to put on the Dungeon Master manual so nobody else can open it? It's like, it's got a little curse on it and stuff.
Well, the Dungeon Master's Guide, as the book is called, is available for anybody to read.
Pardon me for not knowing what that is.
It's written in a way that's not going to make it a problem if somebody does read it.
Oh, so there's no curse if you read it and you're not a Dungeon Master.
It's not like the Mummy on Aqua Teen Hunger Force. Curse!
It's not the Necronomicon or anything. You can't
No.
open it. Okay. It's going to bite me.
But if we did have one player, his name was Dave, and he came over and he looked when the game master got up to go in the kitchen and get something to drink, he looked over his screen that he had in front of him, and he didn't come back to play again after that.
He saw something.
Yeah,
that
well,
he wasn't
you're not
supposed to see.
You're not supposed to look behind the curtain, you know.
Because usually when you look behind the curtain, there's a one-eyed anaconda. There's a one-eyed anaconda with conjunctivitis. It's not pretty.
That's nasty. That's nasty.
Would you prefer a hooded one-eyed anaconda with conjunctivitis?
No. That's so appalling. I don't even know how to express how appalling it is.
Yeah.
You have a knack for going to the darkest, worst places today.
Oh, so don't know the warped mind that lives inside an infantryman. It's pretty sick. Anyway, so the dark places that you go with your game. So what's your next plan then? What's the plan for your next game that you guys are going to do?
For the next game?
Yeah.
Well, he was running a module. The game master was running a module called Death House, basically, and
this Death House is the only type of house that white people would purchase. Black people would never purchase a house called the Death House. Neither would Hispanics. Just saying.
Basically, it was a house that was overrun by a cult.
Again.
And everybody in the house was killed. Their spirits were haunting the place, and it made for a really bad day for the characters.
Let me take that back. Latinos might buy that house. But if the ghost tried to pull some bullshit, your tia or your abuelita or abuelo or even your mama or your papa would probably say, "Hey, listen here, Mr. Ghost, okay? If you're going to stay in this home with us, you're going to contribute, okay? You're going to contribute, okay? You can get out there, you can mow the lawn, you can get another job. Listen. You can get a job just like the rest of us. You get 2 jobs. You're going to clean this house, motherfucker. You're going to clean this house, okay? Or you can go. Because this is mi casa now. Mi casa. Okay? Okay. There's the door. You go out that door. Cierra la puerta, motherfucker. Cierra la puerta. That's what would happen. So, Latinos might buy the House of Death. But, because it's probably a good deal. It's probably a good deal. Anyway, so House of Death, back to the House of Death. Cierra la puerta.
I've read a lot of the books that are based on the world that our characters have been drawn into, and it's not a nice place to be. The people there are very unhappy and they can't leave. They're being basically held hostage on what's called a demiplane of existence by this really powerful, really old vampire who. Well, he's cursed. So.
Okay. He's a cursed vampire.
He's cursed in ways that the Dracula stories can't even begin to describe. Although.
Here's what I think would be
his name is Strahd. Sorry.
He's just gone with Rod, huh? They had to put an ST in front. Couldn't just make it a normal name. Hi, this is.
Well, his
Rod.
Girlfriend's name was Tatiana.
Well, at least she had a normal name, better than Strahd.
Kind of Russian.
Sure. So I think what I can imagine would be a horrible curse is if you were always thirsty.
Yeah.
If you had to drink and drink and drink and drink and drink, but you could never quench your thirst. That would be pretty freaking horrible.
That sounds like probably what a vampire has to go through. In fact, in one of the books, he does that to somebody. He turns them into a vampire and then buries them in a big concrete vault.
Or
starves them eternally.
Or how about this one? Like the myth, was it one of the characters in mythology or whatever is like buried up to their neck, and the water always comes just close enough for him to drink it, and then that recedes and it goes back. So he's always thirsty, but he can't get the water doesn't come close enough. That's torture. Or
if they did that at the ocean, where the water that he could drink, but it's salt water and would.
Oh, that would also suck. Or how about this? How about this? You get to get as many pole dances as you want from women, hot women, but you never get to touch them. How about that? That would suck. That torture I might be okay with. I don't know.
No, I wouldn't be happy there.
Well, at least you get to see it. Your eyes get to do whatever they want, I guess. Still not as bad as and what is that? Little Nicky, where Hitler had to pick out the pineapple. Well,
that's definitely worse.
Well, he deserves it. Get that big pineapple. Pick that pineapple. Freaking asshole.
There was a show that was like that. They had different. It was like different versions of hell for everybody. Was it part of the Hellraiser series, where the guy was in this hell, and it was filled with beds that had writhing women under the sheets, and he'd go and he'd pull the sheet back and there was nothing there.
Ugh. Yeah, that would suck.
So that was his eternity right there.
Yeah, that's pretty horrible.
God, the horror.
I would say the next thing then is, so if you're going to be doing this with your Dungeons and Dragons folks, you're still on the House of Strahd, or the Strahd House, or Eric Estrado's house.
We escaped Eric Estrado's. We escaped the Death House.
Oh, you're out of the Death House.
But I think the concept is now that the characters have escaped the Death House in the mist, they have come through on the other side in a land called Barovia, which is Strahd's domain, his land.
So do you ever do anything instead where, like, maybe next time you're like, hey guys, I've got an idea. Why don't we, how about for this next adventure, we go to Candyland? Something like that, You got a bunch of a bunch of happy little elves and, Care Bears and unicorns.
Not even a friggin' yellow brick road.
Lollipops. Something really cool. You're like, because I'd be sitting back on like, how come we always go to these fucked up places? We always go to these fucked up places, guys. Why don't we go somewhere cool?
Although there is a game, it's a role playing game. It's designed for kids, called My Little Pony. They have a My Little Pony role playing game,
and probably adults play that because they're called bronies.
Yeah, probably. But I guess if you had a bunch of 6-year-olds that you wanted to keep entertained, it might be a good way.
Okay. Or maybe give them a ball.
Or that. Hey,
I would say do this. I would say do this for me.
Like I said, to each their own, man.
Do this for me. Next time you go to play your game, I just want you to suggest that you guys go to Candyland or the Land of Chutes and Ladders and see what they say.
I do believe I would get my ass beat.
I would imagine that if they were going to beat your ass, you probably would have plenty of time to run, because I can imagine most of them will be pulling an inhaler out of their hoodie to take a puff on it first before they have to push themselves away from the table to get you.
I'm the oldest one there.
And probably the only one in decent shape would be my guess.
No, I think, the girls would definitely outrun me.
Well, so you're saying that you're worried about getting your ass kicked by a couple of girls?
I'm not going to hit a kid.
You can't, slip and, move and bob and slip away.
No, I wouldn't get my ass kicked, but I would definitely get laughed at. I would want to leave.
I'm just saying, do it for me. I just want to see what would happen. All right, so then my other suggestion would be, maybe see if... Nah, never mind. I was going to say, see if any of them can do more than a couple push-ups at a time and see what would happen. probably the inhalers would come out again.
Yeah,
I guess.
the game master of our group, he was in the Army too.
The game master of your group was in the Army as well.
The dungeon master, if you would rather.
I don't know. Yeah,
But
whatever you want to say.
he was in the Army, and what the other two, I don't think they ever did any military time at all. But yeah, they make fun of my naval history as well. So
Well, I'm sure they can make fun of it all they want. You just have to ask them what they did in the Army. Like, what'd you do in the Army, douchebag? I like to throw a douchebag in there. I feel that it strengthens the conversation.
yeah,
So what did you do?
It's not my
douchebag?
style.
You should take a page from the book of the Beaveman. All right, so I think we've beaten this to death. Probably didn't really learn that much about Dungeons and Dragons. I did have fun time making fun of it, though.
I got to tell you that your what if the Latinos got into the house or bought the house? What that would be like. That was one of the funniest things I've heard in a long time.
Wow, I take that as a major compliment.
It is.
If any of
It
my
was funny.
Latino relatives listen to it, one, they'd probably find that pretty hilarious and accurate, I must say. But I will tell you this, out of my cousins, oh God, I love my cousins, they say that I am just the whitest person, which I find hilarious. I'm like, that's funny that, I'm the whitest out of all the cousins. No, I would say my brothers are whiter than I am. But anyway, okay, so what next? Our next podcast, I'm going to start a series of, we have some common themes that we haven't repeated yet because this is only episode 4. So one of the common themes that I want to go with is, how we talked about music lyrics. We'll take songs and tear those apart. I'm going to start another topic that's going to be my opinion on what's wrong with
Gilbert Grape?
Yeah, what's eating Gilbert Grape? What's wrong with healthcare in America is going to be one of my other common topics. So what I'm going to do is I'll talk about that occasionally and get Doc's opinion on that as a consumer, and I'll give my opinion as a healthcare provider, and that'll be one of the things that we talk about occasionally and our common themes that we have. So that's what I'm going to do next time. It should be really, it's probably going to be me swearing a lot and yelling, but Doc will try to be the voice of reason.
I'm a good listener.
Doc will be the voice of reason, and we'll kind of go from there. So this is episode 4 of Beaveman and the Doc. This time we talked about the great game, this great American game known as Dungeons and Dragons.
Booyah!
So thanks for listening. Have your friends listen. Have everybody listen so that Doc and I can talk in the microphone for the rest of our lives and only contribute to society in that way. All right? So thanks again. Adios, smooch fuckos. Got nothing to say, Doc? You want to say goodbye? No?
No, you did fine.
All right. And next time, adios.